Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting. Even the bums they hired to act, that throw up. Like, I was reading on IMDb, and they eventually go on to play cops and other things. So that's a fun little fact.
That is. And we get to see kind of a little bit of Mitch Hennessy, Samuel Jackson's backstory. He has an ex-wife. He has a child. They've divorced, which we find out later on. In the past, Mitch was a cop. He had got caught stealing some bonds in a very funny line, kind of a back and forth with Geena Davis, too. But now he's just trying to make it right.
Yeah, and the wife doesn't want the kid hanging around him because he's doing shady, illegal shit.
Yeah, so that's, but man, he buys him a badass toy. I wonder what that toy is. Too,
I was trying to see the details. I paused it, and I wonder if it was like trademark stuff, so they just made up a box cover or covered things, and I couldn't really tell. But if you've seen the movie, feel free at bbkaratepodcast@gmail. Let us know what that was. I
thought it might be like was that around Dino Riders time, or was that?
It wasn't later? Dino Riders. They didn't necessarily have a place set as much as they just had like. I thought it might have been a fun, like a Batman Batcave or something like that, but I just couldn't tell. But so we get our two protagonists, and we get their wants and their needs and their backstory, and then we sort of just dive into their relationship. Everything gets real quick because One-Eyed Jack finds her in her sweet suburban home, and they have a great fight, and that's when we get to see her do the deer thing, where she breaks the guy's neck in front of her husband again.
A double neck break. Yeah. Yeah, first she goes up, and then she goes side to side. With the neck
she had to make sure that shit was broke. Well, I guess that was One-Eyed Jack, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was One-Eyed Jack. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of other shit happened. Go watch the movie, but the next big scene, which is a really well done, fun scene, is the train station scene.
Yeah, and Mitch and Samantha are on their way. They're on their journey to try to find out the backstory of Samantha and her history. And they're going to meet her handler, who they've made contact with. So it's somebody who knows her past and can give her some answers. They go to the train station. This is where we first meet Craig Bierko as Timothy. Excellent villain. Really in the top. I mean, maybe I haven't sat down and think about it, but top 5 of just really bad character. Like, not bad as in like he is a bad guy. Like moral compass. Yeah,
especially from like the 90s. He is up there in terms of crazy ass. Just like I'll torture kids, I'll kill my own kid. I don't care. I want money and I want to cause chaos. Yeah,
and we get a fun back and forth with them. He just wants to kind of check it out first to see if she remembers who he is. She doesn't. He gives them the go ahead. His team the go ahead to go ahead and take her down right there. And we get an all out shootout with it has to be 85 civilians.
At least.
Possibly dead at this train station. Nobody caring for the loss of life. But it's a great shootout, though. A lot of slow motion, a lot of running back and forth. We go upstairs. Then we get the grenade scene where they throw the grenade in the hallway. And just to take it back, previous tense to where they enter the train station, you touched on this, Adam. We do get a great quick shot when they're going in, and Geena Davis is looking around, and briefly you get a glance at the sign that says thin ice, no skating.
Yeah.
So we get a call to that later on. And when they're jumping out to dodge this grenade, which has exploded, tremendous circumference of...
This tiny-ass grenade takes out an entire floor.
It does.
I don't know what a basic hand grenade's, circumference of damage is.
Well, a grenade doesn't even put out fire.
Right.
I mean, a grenade does,
It's shrapnel. But this must be a special government-issued grenade because it sends a fireball down this hallway like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. And we get Geena Davis, we get Samantha Cain and Mitch Hennessy jumping out the window. One of the great scenes shooting down in the ice and then falling through it. And they get away scot-free with the help of Brian Cox, who has never aged a day in his life. He's always been
he's always looked like that.
Yeah, yeah.
We also realize that Geena Davis is not affected by the cold.
Right.
Because once again, like we saw her do earlier, she walks through this icy lake, and now she falls completely into this icy lake again, and then she's just in the car. I mean, the heat's maybe on, but she's not even shaking,
She's not, no, she's good. She's just wondering what the next step is. What's the next move here?
Yeah.
And then what is the next move, Adam?
Well, then after that, they eventually get to... there's a thing I want to drop on before we move on to the torture scene, and that is Brian Cox basically pulls over and he starts talking to him, and he's like, Samuel Jackson is like, he thinks Brian Cox is the weirdest guy, and Brian Cox is hilarious in this movie. Yeah. His 5 minutes of screen time are perfect.
It is.
And Samuel Jackson, he starts pulling these guns out. He's like, here, take this gun. And Samuel Jackson's like, damn, how many guns do you have? He's like, 3. One in the hip, one in the boot, and one basically on my grundle. So, because when you're getting patted down by another guy, they don't check there, which is important for this next scene, because I want to talk about the torture scene.
Yeah.
Which in the trailer, it was a big part of the trailer, which they tie her to this old water turbine at this old house, which actually burned down because they were shooting in it. And they're torturing her. They're holding her underwater, trying to get this information. And she's able to reach free, and she realizes she's able to break free of her binds, and she realizes that they've also killed Brian Cox's character, and she unbuttons his pants. Well, first, a really fun thing is they bring her back up, and at that point she's sort of full Charlie, and she's like, I don't know, I need more time to think about it. Basically, send me back underwater.
You touched me. I'm a little dirty right now. I need to get back on. I need a new
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so they put her back underwater, and she unbuttons his pants, reaches in there, pulls out the gun, and just caps this guy that turns out to be her target from when she was unamnesiaed.
Yeah, David Morse from The Rock, just everything. He just plays David Morse. I mean,
he does.
I don't expect him to be any different.
Very intense, low, intense speaker as well. Just like great. He's so fun to watch.
And during this time, though, too, we kind of find out the plot of Operation Honeymoon and kind of what the government is trying to get done here, and that's. It's a touchy subject, folks, and it's domestic.
This is
terrorism.
Where the 9/11 conspiracy comes in.
So we get some information that, back in the initial bombing of the World Trade Center, that this was done by the government to, blame it on XYZ nation for terrorism, and that to try to get more money for funding for the defense sector. And so this is what exactly they're going to do again. They're going to bomb this location, and it's all about getting money for the Defense Department. Yeah. And if anything, quote unquote, they can blame it on the Muslims.
That's exactly what they say in 1996. And so that is probably the main reason that people have dedicated hours and hours of quote unquote research to tying it to 9/11 conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Which, as Adam said, we're not going to touch on it much, but if you want to, it's out there on YouTube. You can watch them.
But I imagine you could probably take any. I bet if you searched
the
Smurfs 9/11, you'd probably find somebody being like, "You ever notice how Gargamel is on?"
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah,
yeah. So we move past the torture scene, and this is something I went back and rewatched the torture scene, which kind of makes me sound perverted, but we get to see a really weak and meek Sam Jackson here. When they have him under there.
He's cowering.
He's cowering. They've tortured him. He's weeping.
Yeah.
It's a really, and once again, the idea of a female sidekick being drug along by this male superhero, and she's asking for care. She's been damaged. She's weeping. She's cowering under the torture. It's really nice. I mean, he's naked. He's curled up. He's freezing. He's beaten to death, half to death. It's a very I don't know, it's a very sad moment.
Yeah, and it kind of made me think too, how we got information as far as Shane Black writing the part, the main, Samantha Cain's part originally as a man. I wonder if he wrote the sidekick as a female and just was when he switched it, he just said, if we're putting a female in the main one and a male, let's just leave it as is.
Let's leave it.
Because all of these, ideas and actions that we get from Samuel Jackson are exactly how action movies have portrayed women during those times.
Yeah.
The cowering, sad, asking questions.
I don't know how to do this.
Denying sex, from the male too.
Yeah.
And later on in the movie where Samuel Jackson denies Geena Davis from it, and it's all these, he just said, fuck it, let's just leave it how it is and just put Sam Jackson in there. And it's great.
It is. And then we go into the scene after the torture scene, and that is where they basically are in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and she's rented this love-making penthouse, and now she's all Charlie. That torture scene just brought it out of her. She's full Charlie. She dyes her hair.
Yeah.
Go back and watch. She takes a shot of vodka, Finlandia vodka. Thank you for not unknowingly sponsoring us. She takes a shot where she never closes her palm around the shot glass. She just presses it to her lips and then rolls it across her mouth. It's the damnedest thing. It's very sexy.
It moves very smooth, and I just imagine I've wanted to try that, but I don't.
I'm so worried about trying it. It's not going to go well.
It wouldn't.
The first time you try it can't be just in front of a bunch of people, you know?
Right. Just do that at home. Yeah.
Go back and watch that part because it's very weird. But this, I wanted to touch on this because we get to see her deal. Like, how would you deal with this? And this is one of the only times they really touch on the idea of amnesia and what these two lives that she has. Because one, at this point, she hasn't even mentioned her daughter.
Right.
Like, once she's Charlie, she hasn't talked to her daughter in like 3 or 4 days. I mean, she really hasn't mentioned her daughter since probably they jumped out of the building.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, when we get that relationship at the first, she's very caring. Here's a candle, light it. Yeah. It's my vigil to come to show me the way back home. Here's my number on your cast. Everything, too. And then, like, after, like you said, the train station, it's just like, fuck that life kind of thing. You know, this is what I'm about now. And we get a great Samuel L. Jackson, you know, moment in call your fucking kid, it's Christmas kind of thing. And just like bringing it back to reality, kind of like, audience, this is still happening.
We finally get a not that we haven't gotten it, but this is like a true like moral moment of Sam Jackson. I don't know, it's probably one of the only times where you're like, he's actually a really good guy. I mean, you get a few of them, but like this is a moral stance that he takes where she tries to seduce him because she wants to forget her old life, and she's ripped her family pictures in half. She's like, I'm all Charlie now. That part of me is gone. And he turns it down. He does the right thing, and he's like, don't do that. You know, you don't. This is not what you want. What you were really trying to do was get rid of that old life. And that's when he's like, call your fucking kid. Yeah. And so just a really fun, like, well written and an important scene that probably could have easily been left out of an action movie, but it dives a little deeper into both sides of the characters. It's just really well done.
Oh yeah, and like I could have seen him just, you know, if it was another action movie, I could have seen them justifying, and it would have been in my eyes too back then as well, to where he just sleeps with her, and the next day it's kind of like call your kid. Like they just like, well, they gotta sleep together, right? Well, like, no, they don't have to, and it makes it that much better to where he has his set of morals, and he's trying to put her on that same path too. And it really works, and it kind of guides the rest of the way of the movie.
And I guess we get a moral compass switch, don't we? Because we get at the beginning this housewife, single mother, Susie Homemaker, and this derelict detective Weasley, edge of the law kind of guy, and then now we have this kill-all woman who will do everything to destroy anybody in her way, and we have. Now he's the moral compass of the group.
Right.
Which is a fun dynamic switch. So they get out of that hotel. They certainly get into some business. They fight some folks. They have a really fun alley fight scene. But eventually, we get to what we like to call the boss fight.
Boss fight.
Yeah. And I want to take a minute and just recollect on how long this boss fight is. I mean, of course, the final stanza is pretty long, the whole set piece and everything too. But even the time that they have with her going in the freezer, setting the stage of, you know, telling Craig Bierko, Timothy, about his daughter, which is her daughter, of course, but it's actually he's the father, and he gives no shits about. Nope, he doesn't not care. He kind of gives this thing like where bring her in, and you're like, okay, now he's gonna have some remorse.
Yeah, there's like a moment where they're making. She's like, look into your daughter's eyes, and he does, and like you see a twitch in his eyes where he's like, oh, here comes the turn where he's gonna. Yeah. Okay, well, let's kill her, but we'll keep the kid. No, he's like, all right, bye.
Yeah, and after that, then they're locked in the freezer. She gets out with baby piss from a baby doll, and or it's actually lighter fluid, or But we get this boss fight that lasts, I mean, a good, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, I was going to say the last 20 minutes of the movie is technically the boss fight.
Right. And it is, you know, it starts at the lodge with them getting out, Mitch Hennessy getting captured, thrown in the back of a truck. Yep. Or no, he's hiding in the back of the truck, sorry. And then but blown through that sign when that explosion happens too, which is a great effect. I love that. But then this ends up on a chase scene on the bridge at the Canada-America border, and I mean, all hell just ensues. We get hand to hand. We get